Hello, my name is John Palazzolo. I am a PhD student from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and this is my presentation titled Consistency of Postural Control Characteristics of Young Adults Across Multiple Testing Administrations. This is an ongoing longitudinal study in which 4 participants have already completed the 4 testing time points. The preliminary data is presented here. Considerable work has studied the short and long-term neurological consequences from concussions. These include neurocognitive effects such as memory impairment and depression, as well as neuromotor effects like gait and balance disturbances. However, less research has investigated the effects of repetitive head trauma of subconcussive or subclinical magnitudes. These forces can occur across multiple domains, like in sports with soccer heading, but also in the military domain with shoulder-mounted weaponry. While these injuries can present similar to concussions, they may be to a lesser extent. Furthermore, while we are also unsure of any long-term effects of low-magnitude head injuries, a reduced ability in postural control and neurological functioning have been seen after these impacts. Weapons blast exposure may have an effect on neurological functioning. This may be seen by the forceful head movement just after the firing of a shoulder-mounted weapon. A field test funded through the Department of Defense was used to investigate the effects of blast exposure on neurological performance across several time points. This was chosen as these blasts can considerably displace the head and neck with high force. Also, the pressure of the blast produced by these weapons that are fired close to the head can damage the vestibular and related CNS functions. The ActWalker smartphone app was developed to assess neuromotor functions during a stepping-in-place task. The app uses an Android smartphone's accelerometer and other sensors to measure the thigh movement during a multiple 70-second stepping-in-place task. The phone is secured inside a common phone armband modified to fit legs and placed on the lateral thigh. After information such as participant ID and session ID are entered, the participant is instructed to step in place in sync with the phone's beep. While the beep ends after 5 seconds, the participant is instructed to keep stepping in place for the entire trial. During this time, the phone records thigh movement measures such as thigh range of motion, peak thigh flexion standard deviation, median stride time, as well as other kinematic variables. However, only thigh range of motion will be discussed here. In 2008, Ray et al. Performed a study in which the ActWalker app was used to assess neuromotor function across several time points following blast exposure in 41 active U.S. Navy personnel who were present for heavy weapons training. Differences in thigh range of motion were seen after blast exposure for up to 2 weeks. Furthermore, a mean effective time was observed for thigh range of motion, with a continuous decrease in thigh range of motion at all time points from 30 minutes to 72 hours compared to the baseline, with the largest difference being between baseline and the 72 hours after blast exposure. However, stable control sample was not available for comparison. For our study, our 4 participants were recruited and participated in 3 balance assessment tests: the ActWalker app stepping in place task, a B-Trax balance assessment test, and the Neurocom sensory organization test across 4 time points, which were baseline, 24 hours after, 72 hours after, and 2 weeks after. We are only presenting the thigh range of motion of the eyes closed condition for this time constraint. In our sample, no differences were observed within the ActWalker app, nor were they seen in the B-Trax balance test across the 4 main time points. However, a learning effect was observed for the Neurocom SOT in the composition, somatosensory, and vestibular scores. The preliminary data indicate that changes observed in the ActWalker test and the B-Trax balance test may not be due to a learning effect from the multiple testing administrations, whereas the Neurocom SOT may present this issue. There may be several reasons for these outcomes, including the sequence of training and testing and the motivation of the participants. However, this is an ongoing longitudinal study. Our future work will include measures of motivation and perceived efficacy measures assessed via an intrinsic motivation inventory survey completed after testing at each testing point. Thank you for your time, and we'd like to thank our collaborators with the U.S. Department of Defense, Temple University, and Louisiana State University. Thank you.